Shadow of Jealousy, Part 2. Do John and Glory think they can escape their past? What happens when their peaceful life turns into a series of nightmares? Mysterious threats, strange accidents, and a constant feeling of being watched begin to shatter their once stable world. But as they struggle to find answers, a shadowy figure lurks behind it all, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Can they uncover the truth before it's too late, or will their past catch up with them in ways they never imagined?
Like and subscribe.
The joy that filled John and Glory's home with the birth of their baby girl, Bella, was unmatched. They had eagerly anticipated her arrival, and when she finally came, their home was filled with laughter and warmth. Bella became the center of their world, bringing even closer the bond that John and Glory shared. They poured all their love and dreams into her, watching her grow from a tiny, fragile newborn into a lively 3-year-old who lit up their days with her giggles and curiosity. But as time passed, an unsettling feeling began to creep into their lives, one that neither John nor Glory could easily ignore. They started noticing shadows lurking, as if someone was always watching. Glory often heard faint whispers when she walked Bella through the neighborhood, and John sensed that his every move was being monitored. He dismissed it at first, thinking it was all in his head, but the feeling became more intense. One evening, after putting Bella to bed, John and Glory sat together in the dimly lit living room. Glory clutched her husband's hand tightly, her eyes betraying her worry. "John, I can't shake off this feeling. It's like danger is closing in on us." She glanced towards Bella's room, her voice quivering. "I think we need to be careful." John nodded slowly, his mind racing. He had heard rumors of men looking for him, men with faces that held no mercy. He had done well to keep their home secure, but now he realized that perhaps their safety wasn't as assured as he thought. Something, or someone, was closing in, and it seemed like only a matter of time before their happy life would face a new test. Realizing the gravity of the situation, John and Glory made a difficult decision. They needed to get Bella out of harm's way. After a long night of hushed conversations and anxious glances at their sleeping daughter, they decided it was best to take Bella to Glory's mother's house, deep in the countryside. The distance and tranquility of the village seemed like the perfect refuge, far away from the mysterious threats closing in on them. Early the next morning, John packed a small bag with Bella's essentials while Glory bundled their daughter in a warm jacket. As they prepared to leave, Glory fought back tears, trying to stay strong for Bella's sake. She couldn't bear the thought of being apart from her little girl, but she knew it was the right thing to do. John wrapped his arms around Glory, whispering, "We'll bring her back soon. This is just to keep her safe, okay?" With one last look at their home, they set off on the long drive to Glory's mother's village. Bella, still too young to understand what was happening, played with her favorite toy in the backseat, unaware of the tension between her parents. John drove in silence, his mind racing through potential threats and possible outcomes, while Glory kept glancing back at Bella, her heart aching with worry. John and Glory arrived at Glory's mother's home, the familiar warmth of family enveloping them like a comforting blanket. It was a small house filled with laughter and the scent of freshly cooked jollof rice wafting from the kitchen. However, beneath their smiles lay a hidden tension. They had decided to bring their 3-year-old daughter, Bella, to stay for a holiday without revealing the real reason for their visit. "Mom, we thought Bella could use some time away from the city," Glory said, forcing a smile as her mother opened the door. "Oh, my sweet Bella," her mother exclaimed, lifting the little girl into her arms. "You're going to have so much fun here. We'll bake cookies and go to the park every day." As Glory watched her mother and Bella share joyful laughter, guilt gnawed at her insides. They hadn't brought Bella here just for a holiday. They were desperate to keep her safe from the shadows that had begun to haunt their lives. "Is everything okay, dear?" her mother asked, her eyes narrowing with concern as she sensed Glory's unease. "Of course, Mom. Just work stress. You know how it is," Glory replied, hoping to deflect her mother's worries. "All right, but remember, you can talk to me about anything," her mother said, a hint of worry lingering in her voice. John stepped in, eager to change the subject. "How about I help with dinner?" he suggested, flashing a bright smile. "Sure. Just don't burn anything," Glory teased, which brought a chuckle from her mother. As they settled into the evening, John and Glory exchanged worried glances. They were thankful Bella was safe for now, but they both felt the weight of their troubles still looming over them. Meanwhile, at John and Glory's home, their gateman, Efyong, was going about his daily routine. Efyong was a character, always wearing a smile and known for his easygoing nature. As he swept the driveway, he hummed to himself, thinking about the small pleasures of his day. "Ah, another day, another dollar," he muttered, waving at the passing neighbors. "These people will never know the real me." Efyong had a knack for turning mundane tasks into comedy. He often imagined himself as a secret agent, using his position as a gateman to observe the world around him. While he was not involved in John and Glory's troubles, his daily escapades provided some lightheartedness in the otherwise tense atmosphere. One day, while he was washing John's car, he noticed a squirrel chasing a bird across the lawn. "Now that's a showdown," he exclaimed, laughing to himself. "If only they knew I'm the referee in this wild game." His thoughts drifted to his own adventures. He once tried to catch a rat that had invaded the compound, only to slip and land in a muddy puddle. "If only the world could see my heroic battles," he chuckled, shaking his head at the memory. As he finished up, Efyong's phone buzzed. It was a message from one of his friends, asking if he could help him get a discount at a local market. "Just because I'm a gateman doesn't mean I can't be a bargain hunter," he replied, grinning at the thought of haggling for the best prices. Efyong's humorous outlook made the long hours of watching over the house bearable. He had no idea that dark clouds were gathering over John and Glory, but his lively spirit served as a reminder that life could still hold moments of joy, even in the face of adversity. John was a banker, dedicated to his job, while his wife, Glory, balanced her demanding nursing career with raising their 3-year-old daughter, Bella. Life seemed perfect for the family, but a dark shadow began to loom over their once happy home, turning their lives into a spiral of fear and uncertainty. It began one chilly evening. Glory had just wrapped up her shift at the hospital and walked to her car, eager to return home. But as she approached, her heart skipped a beat. Her car windows were shattered, glass shards glittering on the ground. Inside, a crumpled note sat on the dashboard. "This is just the beginning." Her hands trembling, she quickly called John, who arrived in a hurry. He held her as she fought back tears, her fear palpable. Together, they reported the incident at the local police station, where Detective Kelechi, a calm and composed officer, took on their case. "I assure you, I'll get to the bottom of this," Kelechi said with a determined expression. His professional demeanor and frequent check-ins with the family made him seem like a true ally, someone they could trust during this time of distress. But beneath the surface, hidden motivations lingered. As the days passed, the threats became more frequent and unsettling. One night, as the family slept, a brick crashed through their living room window. Tied to it was another note: "You cannot run from what's coming." John's heart pounded as he read the message. He immediately called Kelechi, who arrived at their house with his team and took notes, assuring them that he would do everything possible to track down those responsible. Kelechi's presence was a comfort, and John felt a sense of relief knowing that he had a capable officer on their side. Yet, the strange occurrences continued. John received a chilling call at work. An unknown voice whispered, "You won't be smiling for long, John. Watch your back." When he reported the call to Kelechi, the detective appeared increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress. "I'll trace the number, and I've assigned extra patrols around your neighborhood," Kelechi assured him. "Whoever is behind this won't get away." To John and Glory, Kelechi seemed like a lifeline amid their ordeal. But Kelechi's expressions of concern masked a much darker involvement. One day, Glory decided to visit her mother and has also the opportunity to have some fun with her daughter. As she took Bella to a nearby park for a break from the tension at home, she noticed a suspicious man watching them from a distance. He wore a dark hoodie, his face hidden in shadows. Glory's instincts told her something wasn't right, so she quickly gathered Bella and left, feeling the man's gaze on her back the entire time. She called Kelechi, her voice shaking. He arrived at the park, carefully jotting down her account of the incident. "You did the right thing, Mrs. Glory. I'll make sure this area is monitored closely." His reassuring words made Glory feel safer, but he conveniently left out one crucial detail: his knowledge of the man who had been watching them, part of a web of contacts tied to a hidden mastermind. Then came another terrifying moment. John discovered that the brakes of his car had been tampered with. He only realized it by chance before driving home. If he hadn't, the consequences could have been deadly. Again, Kelechi was on the scene, appearing genuinely alarmed. "I'll bring in forensic experts to inspect the car," Kelechi promised, clenching his fists in frustration. To John, he looked like a man determined to catch the perpetrators, but behind his stern demeanor, Kelechi was hiding something far more sinister. As the days wore on, a new officer, Detective Sandra, joined the investigation. Transferred from another precinct, he was tasked with assisting Kelechi. Sandra was thorough, asking probing questions and studying the details of the case closely. He seemed particularly interested in the events that Kelechi had handled. John and Glory welcomed Sandra's involvement, hoping that a fresh perspective might finally bring them some answers. Kelechi, however, seemed to bristle at the additional oversight. "We're already making progress, Sandra. I've been on this case from the start," Kelechi said, his tone tinged with irritation. Sandra simply nodded, but he remained observant, taking note of Kelechi's unusual defensiveness. As Glory left the hospital one late night, she found her car tires slashed. The area was eerily quiet, and she felt exposed in the dimly lit parking lot. She called Kelechi, who arrived quickly, expressing concern as he inspected the damage. "This is more serious than we thought," he said gravely, taking photographs. "We'll increase surveillance around your home and workplace." John and Glory believed that Kelechi was doing everything he could to help, but what they didn't see was Kelechi's secret phone calls after each incident, conversations held in whispers with a hidden figure. He was always careful, making sure no one noticed the smirk that crept across his face after each call. One evening, John received a call while at home, a muffled voice threatening his family's safety. His hands shook as he listened to the voice describe intimate details about their lives, details that made him feel like someone was always watching. "I'll make sure this ends, John. You have my word," Kelechi said, his voice firm when John reported the call. But that very night, Kelechi met with an unknown contact under the cover of darkness, giving further instructions. Unknown to Kelechi, Sandra had grown increasingly suspicious of his behavior. He noticed inconsistencies in Kelechi's reports, phone records that didn't match up, and details that seemed deliberately vague. Deciding to take matters into his own hands, Sandra began his own investigation, quietly following Kelechi's movements. One night, Sandra followed Kelechi after a late-night meeting at the station. Kelechi drove to an isolated spot on the outskirts of town, where he met with a shadowy figure. Sandra observed from a distance, unable to make out their conversation, but the clandestine nature of the meeting set off alarm bells in his mind. He snapped photos and recorded the encounter, noting that Kelechi seemed far more comfortable than he should be with someone who was supposedly connected to the harassment of John and Glory. Sandra returned to the station and began compiling evidence. He reviewed call logs, matched Kelechi's movements to the timing of the incidents, and pieced together a troubling picture. He realized that Kelechi was not only failing to protect John and Glory, he was part of the threat against them. With enough evidence in hand, Sandra knew he needed to act quickly. He reached out to John and Glory, arranging for them to stay in a safe house while he and a team of trusted officers set up a trap for Kelechi and his accomplices. The plan was set in motion one fateful night. As Kelechi arrived at a meeting point to oversee the next phase of the plan, thinking he was alone with his collaborators, Sandra and his team moved in, catching him by surprise. "Kelechi, you're under arrest," Sandra declared, stepping out of the shadows, gun drawn. Kelechi's eyes widened, his usual calm shattered. He tried to reach for his weapon, but the officers disarmed him before he could react. Sandra handed over the recordings, the evidence that tied Kelechi to the criminal activities. But the real shock came when the shadowy figure Kelechi had been meeting with was revealed. Jane, John's ex-girlfriend, who had orchestrated the entire campaign of terror. John and Glory, who had been called to the scene under police protection, gasped as they saw Jane being led away in handcuffs. Her face, twisted with bitterness, revealed a hatred she had harbored for years. Jane's voice dripped with venom as she looked at John. "You thought you could get rid of me so easily. This is all your fault. You made me what I am." Kelechi, his face pale with fear, turned to Sandra. "You don't understand, Sandra. I owed her. She's family." Sandra cut him off, shaking his head with disgust. "You betrayed the badge, Kelechi. You used your position to torment innocent people." As Kelechi and Jane were led to the waiting police cars, the weight of the betrayal hit John and Glory. Kelechi had been the one they trusted to protect them, but all along he had been feeding information to Jane, aiding her in a campaign of vengeance. With Jane and Kelechi behind bars, the threats finally came to an end. John and Glory were left to pick up the pieces of their lives, knowing that the ordeal had left scars that would take time to heal. But they took comfort in each other's strength and the newfound safety for their daughter, Bella. Officer Sandra became a regular visitor, offering genuine support to the family. As he helped them regain their sense of security, he remained determined to ensure that no other family would fall victim to betrayal like they had. And as the days passed, John and Glory found a renewed hope, knowing that though their trust had been shattered, they had also found an ally who restored their faith in justice. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the story. Kindly support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our YouTube channel, Chukwudi Alola Studio, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. We would also love to hear your thoughts on the comment about the story. Thank you once again.